It's the mind behind the curtain with your hosts, Alex and Jose.
What up, y'all?
How y'all doing? Get ready, because we're going to talk about the yin and the yang.
The bad, the good.
Everything universal. The positive and the negative.
The evil.
And the good, the wrong.
The unknown.
And that's right. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
It's up to you, the listeners and the audience, to believe it or not.
It's up to you. It's up to you. Here we go. Whoop, whoop. We are back for another episode of The Mind Behind the Curtain. And thank you again for joining us,
My
Michelle.
pleasure.
She stayed, and after her amazing interview and one of our segments of Lava 604, and now we're gonna bring to you an episode of The Mind Behind the Curtain called
Whole different side.
My Cruise Ship Experience During Covid-19, aka COVID Shipwrecked. COVID-19 Shipwrecked.
Oh my god.
This is gonna be an interesting one because we got Michelle here and Jose. She's got some stories, man, to tell us about her experience while she was on the cruise ship. Yeah,
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
well, let's get right into it.
Okay,
Let's
so
get into the interesting part of it.
so I'll tell you kind of like where it started. So with the release of my last song, there I was in Toronto trying to fly through the border, and I was denied at the border for many reasons. We'll do another segment on that one.
Oh, good, perfect. I love
So
it.
I was denied at the border. I flew back home. Then I flew into Cancun on February 20th. Then went to Cozumel, joined the ship. 3 weeks later, all operations of cruise ship stopped. And at that point, we got all the crew, all the passengers or the guests off the ship, but the crew now had to stay on the ship. And I ended up staying there until May 9th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So from March 14th to May 9th,
yeah, so mid-March.
there was no guests on board.
Wow. All right, so here on land, right? Like here in Vancouver, in BC, in this side of the nation, in this province, we got our warning on the first couple
April.
days of March.
Oh,
Yeah,
March.
and so they gave us the warning, and then around the 15th, 16th,
Lockdown.
it was a lockdown. It was the 14-day quarantine, right?
Yeah.
Where you had where you were only allowed to go out for essentials, right? So how was that experience for you guys? I know you probably got the same script. You got the warning, and then you got the lockdown, right?
Protocols.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
the
think
same protocol, right?
To tell you the truth, I think we were a little behind. I wasn't paying attention to the news a lot, so I kind of just once I'm on the cruise ship,
you're
I'm
right.
like I'm in my bubble life.
Yeah.
And,
You
yeah.
technically you were about 2 weeks behind us. Like
Yeah.
everything that was happening here, you guys were about 2 weeks behind. Because I was talking to you during that time.
Yeah, so just a few days, like I think it was March 10th, they told us they were stopping operations. And then March 14th, all the guests got off. At that point, we had some sick people on board, not with COVID-19. They all got tested. But then, so the first 2 weeks that we were on board, we were actually like in party mode. We're
Just like the rest of the world in the first 2 weeks of warning. That's what happened, yeah.
Yeah, so
you're all fully up
you know
partying.
what, my cruise ship company, and I don't even think I've stated what it is, so I won't at this point, but
Yeah.
they were great because they, hosted activities for us and kept us involved, so we didn't just like go crazy with no work.
Right.
There were lots of people that were still working, but many of us were not working anymore. Me, and maybe every 2 days I would play for 45 minutes.
Right, right.
So it was like, and by the pool, and everyone's like in the pool. So we actually had a really great time. And then once April 1st hit, then we were isolated to our cabins. But at that point, we were already in guest cabins.
So on April 5th, that's when you guys got the 14-day isolation protocol.
Yeah, and what we were
guys.
told, so what we were told was before March 14th came, in order for us to disembark our guests, we had to test all of the sick people on board.
Wow.
So everybody
Yeah.
that was in isolation or had been at the medical clinic previously, needed to get tested.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want to release anybody that was infected with COVID into some land, right?
Exactly.
Into some country or whatever.
Right.
You also mentioned that there was like it wasn't only one cruise ship, and I can see it in the picture here. I can see like several cruise ships that were like they were like anchored next to each other, right? Yeah,
this is a picture I took.
Freaking amazing picture.
So actually,
CTV grabbed it. It says here CTV News Vancouver grabbed it.
They did an interview with me, CT News Vancouver.
That's awesome.
And so what ended up happening was all these people were tested. We actually picked up our own test from the Dominican, tested these people. Some of our crew members were in there. Nobody was tested positive, so they disembarked guests. Now they wouldn't let crew off. So this was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Crew wasn't allowed to get off. On April 1st, we had just gotten some new tests from Fort Lauderdale.
Mm-hmm.
We tested people that were sick, and all of a sudden there was one guy that tested positive.
Right.
Now, we figured out later that maybe it was a false negative test. Nobody will really know, but why was that guy negative and then 2 weeks later positive? We'll never know because he was
there was
actually...
a lot of those going around.
But he was actually isolated. Like, he was in quarantine for those 2 weeks that we were all partying.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is one thing that, sorry to interrupt, but Jose and I talked about this when they were talking about running these tests. From a conspiracy side, we were thinking that they were putting the coronavirus in that Q-tip. You know what I mean?
Well,
and every time, seriously,
crazy, yeah.
and every time somebody would get tested, a few days later or a week later, they would go and get another test, or 2 weeks later.
Well, the president of Africa.
And they were like, "Oh, you have COVID now."
They did a test,
like,
and
what?
they used like real human names, right? People's names. And they tested with mango and different things, right? But none human. And they all came back positive. And he says, how does a mango get the COVID-19? He's like, we don't do tests no more. He said, no more tests.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. A lot of things seem really, really absurd, and things don't make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just the story about the guy that just got tested, and then the other thing is like, why would you let passengers off but not the crew?
That's suspicious.
So this was why, because CDC didn't want, thousands of crew members now coming in, and already they knew there was a lot of people traveling at this point. Airports were jammed with people. Do you remember when that was happening?
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So they were like, no crew is allowed to get off. So we just had to stay on. But that turned into, now you have to. Now all the borders are closed, and so are all the ports. So what you see in that picture is. What the cruise ships decided to do was repatriate the crew, like get the crew back to their homes via ships.
Yeah, I'm counting 1, 3.
There was 13 around us
5,
where we were.
6.
And then ours.
And 6, 7. So that's 7 ships right there.
That's like one side.
One side.
That's crazy.
So we all gathered in the same area in the Bahamas and anchored there for 55 days.
You were off the island. What island was that?
Nassau,
right?
You know, it's like different countries.
That's what it is, man.
That's what we did.
And
so now all the Canadians and all the North Americans went to one ship, and all the people from Asia went to one ship, and all the people from this side of Europe went here.
And that's why it would make sense for them to follow the same protocols that they followed in every country as we did. Yeah.
Then we had to follow the 14-day thing. Yeah. But because there was still sick people on the 14-day, not with COVID, but they were still in isolation, we still had to follow some of the self-isolating protocols, and they lowered it. But then when we were trying to get off the ship, because they transferred us to a different ship, I got sent to the Emerald. Now, every time new people come to the ship, every time new people came to the ship, you had to self-isolate again for 7 days.
And were you tested again, though?
We were never tested.
You're never tested?
Never tested, just isolated.
Just isolated, huh?
Yeah, that is weird. And how you were transferred to another ship, that's oh man. And how many crew members were transferred
and
each
listen
time?
to this.
Were you guys rotating? And or were you adding on to the crew members that were already there? Like,
So we were
You know
putting
what I mean?
all different people from different places of the world on ships together, so the
Yeah.
ship could sail to that part of the world with all those people.
Right, that makes sense.
That's
yeah,
totally-
that makes
So,
sense. Yeah.
but at that time, we weren't supposed to be in the Bahamas, and the water was getting so crazy, you guys. We had to keep postponing the day that we were supposed to, because we were now in the middle of the water. We didn't have a dock.
that's insane.
We had to transfer
Yeah.
from boat to boat, out of boats.
Storm hits and oh my
People
god.
got seriously
Yeah.
hurt.
Oh,
There was
man.
one boat. They were trying to, the day before we ended up transshipping is what they call it.
Okay. Yeah.
This they call them water shuttles or whatever, but it's 4 hours they were in this water shuttle. There was a girl who like broke her ankle and
Wow, they were going through rough waters and
they couldn't get out
God.
because at this point, if the waves are too high,
Yeah.
it's dangerous. You
Yeah.
could fall out
Yeah.
and die. So
Right.
they had to wait out these waters, and
Oh my god.
it ended up being a
What an ordeal.
disaster.
Were you ever caught in one of those ships, like yourself? or
No, I have some videos I can show you later
Yeah.
where it was
just
like,
like
that, but
crazy.
nothing like.
Well, we
it had
gotta
been the day
get our hands on
before.
those videos,
Yeah.
man, because those would go viral.
We're wearing our masks in there. This one guy's got his mask off, and I'm like, I can't send this to CTV because the mask was
Oh
off.
wow! Through this
But
whole
it's so
ordeal,
hot.
throughout this whole ordeal, what was your worst experience through it?
I think wearing the masks, to tell you the truth, it was like every day we had to stay in our rooms, but if we came out for anything, we had to wear these masks. And it was so hot. So hot. So even if you just wanted to like go for a walk around the top deck, even though you technically weren't supposed to, it was just so uncomfortable because you're wearing this mask. You can't breathe out of this
Can't
mask.
breathe.
And we made our own masks at first because there was no masks.
Right, right.
So we literally made masks out of napkins. Now napkins, like cloth napkins.
Cloth napkins. So it's
Okay.
almost like
So
a
like a
bandana.
bandana.
Yeah. So that's
But
fine.
thick. They're
Yeah,
thick.
thick. Yeah.
Like, you can't even breathe through it.
A couple weeks ago, we read something on the WHO that, or like the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
They said that medical masks are not mandatory. That you
Yeah.
can make your own mask as long as they're made out of like cloth material, like
Yeah.
bandanas
Yeah.
and actually table napkins
yeah.
and all
And
that.
before that,
so
they said
before that, they're like,
beware
no,
about
yeah,
no
don't wear
mask at
those.
all.
And
No,
that's the
don't
thing
even-
too. That's another thing. It's all very confusing.
it's all
there.
confusing.
I want to get to talking about how much coverage you got because we looked up some of the stuff here and the list goes on and on about like CTV, Vic TV. Like you were all you were blasted all across Canada, right?
Yeah, I
Who's
got
interviewed you?
CTV News Vancouver.
Yeah.
So so basically this is what happened. We couldn't get off the ship because all of the borders were shut, the ports were shut, nobody was allowing, even the United States was not allowing people from Fort Lauderdale into Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
Okay.
Everybody was confined to the borders. Yeah.
Crazy.
We were not allowed off
We
the
were
ship.
not allowed off the
So we're
ship.
at this point. They had this. They had a chartered flight set up for us from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from Nassau, Bahamas to Canada. The government of Canada helped with the company that I work for to get that plane there for us.
Mm-hmm.
So there was 42 Canadians on my ship, and. So we're told, yeah, pack your bags, everything's good, but we still don't have the go-ahead, but we're going to go there anyway. We're going to, sail to the port. Well, we got to the port at 10:30 a.m. and we were denied entry.
Oh.
Our plane was leaving at 4 o'clock. So at that point, I had been in touch with the High Commissioner of Canada and the consulate in the Bahamas, like through email, and my mom was calling,
Right.
being like, are these people getting... And they're like, yeah, it looks great, it looks very positive, and then all of a sudden shut down. So I made this Facebook post just like, oh my God, we're stuck here, please help us get home. Because at this point, we're like, how are we going to get off the ship?
Yeah.
And now, we'll do in another segment, I can't actually step on land in the United States anymore. So I was kind of like, how am I even going to get off this ship? So from this Facebook post is where I got all the attention, and then I started getting messages in my inbox like, oh, would you do a interview with us?
That's
So
great.
yeah, I did
That's
like
great.
5 to 10 interviews.
And see, those are one of the positive things about Facebook. Other than like when there's an earthquake or a catastrophic event, you can check in and then your family members know, right?
Yeah.
This is an example of how Facebook is so efficient in getting the word out.
Yeah.
You know, and just through that post, you got so
Exactly.
much recognition. I wanna like say that one of the best titles that I read on one of your interviews was "Grateful to be on land."
And let me
come out
tell
of
you,
you? Did
we
that
were
come out of you?
That came out of me. I was like, oh my, because once I got on land, they wanted to do
You're
another
like, kiss it,
interview.
did you
They were
How
like,
did you ask her? Did you kiss it?
it was
Yeah.
weird because we
Yeah.
were like, oh my god, land ho, you know, like we literally said that. And once you got on land, you were like, holy shit, we literally haven't stepped on land in 55 days.
Oh my god.
But there was people that had spent 90 days there.
That's
By this
insane.
time,
That's insane.
by this time, there's still people that
Yeah.
are still on the ship and haven't put their foot on land.
Well, I kept feeling sorry for everybody that was stuck
There was
on the cruise ships, and I felt-
120,000
and I was
people.
reaching out. Yeah.
120,000
That's like-
crew members.
and it was
just
basically
with
like being-
Carnival Corporation.
being in
Yeah.
a prison, in a floating prison, you
That's
know,
what
like
it
being
is.
on Alcatraz.
Incarcerated.
Well, yeah, but moving, you can't even like
Incarcerated
You know,
at sea.
incarcerated. I know.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it was pretty intense there for a while.
But
like-
you were being fed regularly.
Right,
You
you
had
know-
access to some alcohol, so you were
Only
okay.
2 drinks a day.
Only 2 drinks a day. And you had entertainment, so you had TV, music playing, and all that. How did you cope with it? Like, did you do a routine? Did you start up a routine where
I did.
Where you were like,
I did start
yeah.
a routine. My routine started with sun tanning on the patio.
Nice.
Okay, so we
start off with a good.
we had this
good
great.
thing, you know.
They did like the Sky Princess Radio, and I actually wrote the jingle to it. And
No
it's like,
way.
Yeah, it's like it's the Sky Princess Radio 7504. Anyway, that's like the
awesome.
main thing.
That is awesome.
And they played that every morning at 10, and then we could call in and win things and participate that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always calling in, you know,
And that was just between the people that were
on the
confined to
ship.
the or just on the ship,
all the
on your
cruise
ship.
on our ship.
Yeah, on your ship. Yeah.
So there
yeah,
was like
yeah.
the cruise director,
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
they did great
Yeah.
things for us that way, and
Yeah.
we did that twice a day, and we did like bingo, and you know, you could win things. So you're at least trying to participate
Yeah.
some way with other people on the ship.
Right.
But for the most part, so that's kind of what I did. I read some books. I watched a lot of movies. I was like, I should
Like
do some.
everybody did.
Yeah. And I had no incentive to work out at all. So I was
Because
like,
you weren't allowed to go jogging or anything, right? Or
Nothing.
use
Everything
the
was
gym.
closed.
Everything was
Pool?
shut.
The pool
Yeah.
was shut down?
Everything was shut.
Wow.
That's crazy.
yeah. So mostly it just, and then as soon as 6 o'clock
That's her
hit.
performing right there. Like, can you tell us a little bit about this picture here?
That's on the cruise ship.
Yeah. That's on the
Yeah,
cruise
so
ship.
I actually do an Adele show on the cruise ship. So I'm hired as a featured soloist. So I mostly perform solo, but I put together a show, an Adele show, and
That's awesome.
I play it with, here's a quartet, but now I'm doing it with a 7-piece band. And then we would, perform in the piazza. And sometimes it would be in the theaters, because there's 2 different theaters in there as well. But yeah, it's just nice to be able to play with a band that, is really solid. They're amazing musicians.
That looks awesome. That looks so impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so overall, okay, would you go back to a cruise ship?
I definitely would. I think this
Yeah.
is a one in a lifetime time this has happened. This has
Right.
never happened before.
No,
so
right.
True.
I wouldn't say, I'll never find myself on another cruise ship.
That's
No.
right. And I think that's an advice that you can send out to the masses and say, hey, listen, don't give up on the things that you were doing post-COVID.
That you
Definitely
love.
not.
That you
love doing. Yeah, no.
Just because
Traveling
out
is
of
one of my
fear
passions.
or whatever. Yeah,
No.
I wouldn't
and I think the traveling and all the places that you visited and the experience that you acquire outweigh the torture that you endured.
Yeah. And,
Which was like tanning, drinking 2 drinks a day.
well, sometimes you would get your 2 drinks and then you
Yeah.
would keep them for the next day, and then
Right.
the next day you could have 4 drinks.
I know, you adapt, you improvise.
Were you scared at any point?
I was never scared. The only time I felt maybe a little bit of panic is when I realized, oh my God, we can't even get onto the last chartered flight from Canada.
Right. So you were already in Canada. You were already in Toronto. You were.
No.
This is when you felt like that, or no?
When
Should be in Canada. What does that?
No, because she
No.
landed in Canada, and then you had to
Yeah.
catch a flight to Vancouver, right,
Yes,
from
yeah,
Toronto.
yeah.
But you were held in isolation for another 14 days in Toronto, right?
no,
You want to talk about that? if you're like in the family, you know, if you're like in the CTV family and you've done news, they let you bend the rules a little bit, right? Like they let you break the rules a little bit. So what happened?
Okay,
you got flown to Toronto. Or no?
So yeah, it's interesting because I had my own private car from the cruise ship to the airport.
Awesome.
To the airplane.
Yeah, airplane.
Literally took me right to the airplane.
Yeah.
This we'll talk about in segment 3. That'll come someday.
Okay.
But I wasn't supposed to get out of that vehicle because, you know, we could potentially have COVID or whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, I asked this lady, I was like, hey, I need to get some cash. I owe this guy some money. Can I stop here at this ATM? And not even thinking, like, of course I can't stop. First of all, I'm not allowed to get out in the States.
Right.
And she's, like, escorting me. And she's like, yeah, no problem. She lets me get out. I'm wearing gloves and a mask. And I go into it, 7-Eleven or whatever it is. I take out money, buy a coffee by myself, and she's nowhere to be found. She, like, drove away.
Oh, no. I ain't want nothing to do with this. I'm out.
And then she came. No, she told me she was gonna come back and get me.
Yeah.
She actually picked up one. She went and picked up one of her friends, and then we took her friend.
What?
Her friend around grocery shopping.
No.
Then she gets a call from like the border security at the airport, and they're like, "Where are you? We're waiting on Michelle now. Now they're like waiting for me at this airplane." So anyway.
By the way, we don't want to get that person in trouble. We're not saying any names.
No.
But you know what? Everything is new to us, and you know we got habits, right? We're human at the end
exactly.
of the day. Yeah.
So anyway, it's just a funny story because it's like
That's funny.
I'm not supposed to be on land at all. And so in Toronto, we actually they took us directly to an hotel, and then we were kind of like confined into this area of the hotel, and they brought our food to us, but they brought us cold food, and they were like, "Oh, there's a microwave downstairs. Go use it." And it's like we're supposed to be isolated to our hotel room. I just ate my food cold.
Doesn't make sense. Now you're letting me out and just to go warm up my food. Like, well, what's going on? Yeah, it doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. None of this stuff that people do. I was at Baskin Robbins with my nephews, right? And my nephews wanted to try out some ice cream, and I asked the girl behind the counter, "Hey, can we try the ice cream?" She's like, "No, I can't give you out any spoons because you will infect them." I go, "Listen, I've sanitized the crap out of my hands. I'm not gonna cough on the spoon, and I'm putting it in my mouth, and then you're throwing it in garbage. Plus, you're not wearing any gloves." She's like, "Well, I can't hand you the spoon," and I'm like, "All right, fine. We can't test it. We just go with what it looks like, right?"
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when we all got our cones and stuff, I mean, because we got ice cream on a cup, something similar to the cups. The girl goes, "Would you like any spoons?" I'm like,
and then gave you spoons.
and gave us spoons.
But wouldn't before.
No.
Yeah, so it's the same.
Nothing makes sense.
It makes no sense, no.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad that you're back on land.
Me too.
And I understand that you look forward to going back into the cruise ship because it's a passion of yours and it's a great career because you can build it into a career.
Yeah. There's lots of places I can go. I do love the cruise ship industry for sure.
Awesome. Any more questions that we have?
I got none.
So that's it. Let's wrap it up. I'm glad and I'm grateful that you are on land, and I'm grateful for everybody else that made it. You know.
Yeah.
And everybody.
Those who are stuck.
By the way, I did.
Is there people still stuck on cruise ships?
But wait,
Are there?
yes, there is
There
a few.
is?
There's like
Oh
five.
my God.
There's like 5% of people that they're still waiting to repatriate everyone.
Man.
But there's still
Hang in there, folks.
Yeah, for real.
there's still going to be people that are working on cruise ships anyway.
Right.
So the cruise ships have to have maybe 300 people to still keep them working at all times. But those 300
Like
people
the
are
maintenance,
working.
the
They can't
engines
get
and-
off the ship.
Man, that's
So
horrible.
they're working there on the ship. You know, there was a doctor that just got off the ship yesterday. 8 months she was there.
8 months.
Because they couldn't bring on a new doctor because they couldn't fly anybody. So they can't let the doctor
and
go.
and if I was a doctor and they asked me, "Hey, you need to go to a cruise ship," I'd be like, "Hell no,
You can't.
I'm
You
not going to."
couldn't.
And you
Yeah.
can't anyway. So
Yeah.
you're like, "I can't. Sorry," but I wouldn't be volunteering for it, man. Like, no way.
No.
Right now, no.
No.
That's
But when I
madness.
came back from Toronto, just so everybody knows, I did do my 14-day quarantine.
And I can testify for that because I was
Yeah.
on the phone with her.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you for watching
Thank
again.
you.
This has been a segment of The Mind Behind the Curtain, and it's called COVID Shipwrecked. Right?
Yeah, COVID Shipwrecked.
All right, guys, thank you for watching, and we're gonna leave you probably with one of Michelle's song, "Wind Me Up."
I tell the DJs what to play.
Should I fast forward it?
Understand?
Oh, that's good. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Understand? Understand?